when you next term, companion cells. So now we'll discuss about the companion cells. When you take the companion cells, they are usually called sister cells. Sister cells of C elements. Why they are called as sister cells? See, when you say sibling or sister or brother, what that indicates, they are the supporting people, isn't it? So here when you take the companion cell, they act as supporting cells to the sieve elements. How? Let us see. When you take sieve elements, they are live cells. Live cells means what? They will perform specific function and they will be having cytoplasm. They should be nucleus along with cell organelles. But the most surprising feature in sieve elements is they will not have nucleus. But this sister cell, which is the companion cell, it will provide the nucleus function to the sieve cells. So means what? Suppose if you are having a sieve element which functions but doesn't have nucleus, and the nucleus will be provided by the companion cell. Companion here means what? It is supporting the sieve cell in giving the structural aspect of nucleus. How this is happening, let's see. Okay, any doubts so far with the gymnosperm word, pteridophytes, and yes. Yes,
Ma'am, I don't understand how the three words, how the three plant classifications relate to the phloem.
Classification related to
the phloem. You taught us these three plant classifications, right?
Yeah.
And then you also taught us about the phloem.
Yeah, phloem. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. So how do these two things relate?
Actually, phloem is a tissue which translocates food. Okay, that's a part. Now, when you come to the classification of plants, here, these plants, I showed this classification so that you can understand what does mean by primitive plants and advanced plants. Okay, so here if you take the phloem tissue, you are having various cells. Some cells you'll find only in some plants, and some cells you'll find only in some plants. You won't find cells in all plants. And at the same time, you won't find seed tubes in all plants. Same happens with companion cells also. You won't find companion cells in all plants. They're not universal. Okay, so why they're not universal? Because some plants will possess simple characters like the gymnosperm plants and pteridophytes plants. So they will possess only simple tissues or simple cells like the seed cells. Okay, when you take angiosperms like plants, they are advanced plants which will possess somewhat complex or advanced cells. For example, seed tubes. Okay, and companion cells also observed in angiosperms. So here the phloem tissue will have different cells, of which some cells are present only in primitive plants. Okay, here. And some cells are present even in advanced plants. In order to show you the difference, how some cells are present in primitive plants and why some cells are present in advanced plants. That's why I gave this classification in order to link up why some cells are simple in nature and some cells are advanced in nature. Got the point?
Yes, ma'am.
Where is this guy, Khalifiya? You got the point?
Yeah, I got it.
So here, why I gave this terminology classification is in order to just link up how some cells of phloem tissue are present only in simple primitive plants and why some cells are present in advanced plants. Okay. Now here we are discussing about how sieve elements and companion cells are called sister cells. Okay. Now, when you take phloem tissue, it will be looking something like this. Can you see the picture?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when you take the phloem tissue in the longitudinal section and in transverse section, okay, see the longitudinal section. Here we are having the companion cells, and this is the seed tube. So these are the pores of the seed tube, which translocates the food. So the pore possessing part of seed tube is called seed plate. Looks like this, something. See, you would have seen in your house, probably in kitchen. Okay. Now here, if you take, these are the companion cells. Here, the seed tube element doesn't have any nucleus, but the companion cell is possessing nucleus. Okay. So here, when the seed tube and the companion cell both are associated, then only they can function. That's what they have shown here. See, a group of cells in which you are having seed tubes and companion cells together, so that they help in translocation. Because if they are not together, the seed tube cannot function individually. This is the basic point. Why? Because the doesn't have nucleus. Nucleus will be used from the companion cell. So the seed tube elements and companion cells, they both help in translocation. Individually, they cannot perform any function. That's why they are called sister cells. This is the analytic question. What are the sister cells in phloem tissue? A kind of question can be framed. And why they are called sister cells? Because they are supporting each other in performing their function properly. Okay. Then when you take the companion cell, same thing, you will find companion cell in advanced plants only. For example, angiosperms. So what happens to the primitive plants? They won't have companion cells, but instead of companion cells, they will have cells called albuminous cells. So you'll have albuminous cells in primitive plants. For example, I gave gymnosperms and pteridophytes words, isn't it? So here, the other kind of cells you'll find in phloem is seed tube cells, companion cells, or seed tube cells and albuminous cells. This is the combination. Okay. So suppose a question can be asked like, find the odd one out. They may give a combination option A, seed tube cells, companion cells. In option B, they can give seed tube cells and albuminous cells. In option C, they may give both, and D, they may give only A. Until unless you won't get the point of albuminous cell, you cannot answer such questions. It's somewhat advanced point. Okay. So here, the seed tubes and companion cells we can call as sister cells in advanced plants. At the same time, in primitive plants, we can call seed tubes and albuminous cells, okay, as the sister cells in phloem tissue. So all the points related to seed tubes, companion cells is only translocation of food. That's the main function of these cells. They'll translocate food from the prepared site like leaf to other parts like to the roots or to the branches and all. Okay.